Hello boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm ForClassic and welcome to BenchART. So for today what I do have in here is Decay of Logos. Decay of Logos, it is an indie game developed by Amplify Creations that uses Unity engine. Amplify Creations, it is created by a small studio of 4 guys or girls. I believe they are guys. That's not relevant. For me, what is actually relevant is that they are all Portuguese, and this is actually interesting because I'm also Portuguese, alright, and Portugal usually don't have game developers that are able to deliver games like this. I mean, this year, I believe, or last year, they were able, I mean, there was a developer team that was able to deliver a game called Dakar, and it was kind of mediocre, but it was releases and it kind of had international attention. And this time we have Decay of Logos from this developer team that also got a lot of attention. Unfortunately, not sometimes for the best, which I will explain a little bit later, because the press have been receiving this game that well as expected. But obviously, like I said, I will carefully touch in that subject a little bit later into this video. Alright, but for now, let's go to what we really care about, the performance. Let's see how the game runs. So I'm using pretty much minimum settings in here, aside from textures and anti-aliasing. The resolution, I'm using my custom resolution of 960 by 540. In case you want to know how to create this custom resolution, follow the link in the description of the video. Anti-aliasing, it is more of a matter of a choice. TAA, it is more blurry, but gets rid of pretty much all the jaggies. SMA is more sharp, but you will notice much more jaggies. The performance throughout these three anti-aliasings are pretty much the same. Texture quality affects the VRAM usage. I decided to use high. I didn't want to push that much, but we have a lot of free VRAM that we can use. So if you want to use very high textures, I believe you will be fine with no issues. All the rest of the settings are pretty much post-processing, motion blur, a bit of motion, and bloom. All of them were reduced in order to have a good performance, okay? But let's take a look on these requirements. So they require an i5 3470, which is an old i5 quad core. Alright, it is actually much better than what we have in here. They require 4 GB of RAM, which I find it correct, and the GTX 660. So we are very below the minimum requirements, and yet I was able to get an average with the settings that you saw, an average of 47 frames per second. In the 1% law of 21. The issue is that most of the time this game will run absolutely great, around 40 to 50 frames per second, sometimes even more depending on the area, and that's really the point, the areas. If you are inside of a dungeon or in a place without too much trees and grass, even this type of place where you are right now, this is not very demanding at all to this laptop. Although, if you go to a place which I visit a little bit more further in this video, which you have like 5-6 trees casting shadows, and those shadows are being cast to other big amounts of grass, and you have an overview of the area with 4 or 5 enemies. In that regard, the game performance starts to drop, and the blame, it is only the graphic card. The CPU seems to be fine most of the time with no issues. So yeah, performance, it's pretty much like that. Either you run the game at 40 to 50 frames per second, just like in the next second you get to a different area with a lot of grass and trees, and the performance will be under 30 frames per second. So yeah, that's something that you should keep in mind. But now that we talked about performance and we can actually say that we can run it with some complaints, alright? How about the game itself? What is this? This is pretty much a Dark Souls, but instead of having a grim environment and dark, what you will get, it is pretty much a color palette of Zelda Breath of the Wild from Switch. Although, even gameplay, it is just like Dark Souls. That it is not as refined as Dark Souls. Alright, it feels sometimes more sluggish, and the lock on target and cameras it is not as good as Dark Souls, and you can actually notice that. It is at first hard to adapt, the lack of stabbing the back and stuff like that. I died a lot of times because I'm really adept to Dark Souls games, and this one felt a little bit weird at first. It is not as refined, alright, but again, it was only 4 guys that have done this. But apart from that, I believe it is really good. The gameplay feels good, although there are some things where they really failed miserably, and one of them I actually didn't show in this video, unfortunately, but one of them, it is the mount. There is an elk in this game which you can mount, but there is no advantages in doing so, because the elk, it is as fast as you running, so there is no reason for you to use it. Also, it is hard to control as hell, and buggy as hell too. So Roach from Witcher 3 seems like a dream comparing to this. Alright, it is true. Elk controls are bad, tanked, and it is bugged, because sometimes there is a puzzle where you need to place the elk at some point, and suddenly it doesn't want to stay at that point and starts to run through the map. So yeah, there are some issues with the mount. I really hope they fix that. And also, apart from that, there are some very serious bugs that I did found yesterday. IGN review did found even more bugs that I did found, but most of them are very serious. Sometimes you just fall through the floor and die and stuff like that. But a big warning to you, because I was playing this game yesterday when I did found those bugs, alright? But today, when I turned on my PC, there was an update for this game of 1.1 gigabytes. And I've been having a hard time trying to replicate the bugs that I had yesterday, but it seems that they are not here anymore. So the IGN review, where they gave like a score of 3 or 3.7, which they claimed that the main issue with this game, it was the bugs and the optimization on the consoles, for example. I believe it is fixed. I don't have the confirmation for this, so probably you should investigate a little bit more, or if I found more bugs and stuff like this, I might leave on the description of this video. But since that 1.1 gigabyte update, I haven't been finding any of those groundbreaking bugs. Unfortunately, the elk is still a tank and hard to control, alright? There are other issues with the game. Unfortunately, the game, it is a little bit repetitive, alright? The enemies are mostly the same most of the time. Of course, there are variances from what they dress and the clothing. There is another thing that I'm not entirely sure, but I believe it happened to me like 2 times. For example, I'm fighting one guy and it is easy to kill, and the guy hits me in the face and I lose like 25% of HP. But there is no issues with that. I heal myself to the max, and then I'm going to try to kill a guy that is exactly the same as the other guy, and that guy, it is much more harder to kill, and he just slaps me in the face and I instantly die. Alright, this is an issue because the guy, it isn't looking different than the other, so it is hard to identify which one will be a challenging opponent or not. And the second thing is that if they included a level above of the HP bar, that could be useful for us to not get these surprises. Although, like I said, it might be an issue with me. I might not have been able to identify a difference in those characters, in those enemies, but they actually looked a lot like the same, and I believe I got tricked and pissed off by that, because I just got killed many times because of things like that. Maybe I wasn't just paying attention, but if you are going to play this game, keep that in mind, alright? So, one of the good things about the game is that it seems that Amplify Creations understands that their game, it isn't really the last cup of tea of the world, alright? And the price that they are asking for the game, it is only $19.99. So it is a very cheap price, so 20 bucks, what is that? It is nothing for a release price. And if you want to play a different Souls-like game, then this is the choice for you. So guys, without too much more stuff to talk about, thank you a lot for watching. I will start a playthrough on my secondary channel called For Classic. So if you are not subscribed to the channel, there is a link on the description. I probably will start to launch videos after Sunday. So just keep tuned if you want to see more about this game on my secondary channel. Also, I want to personally say thank you to the developers of this game and publishers to providing me a key for trying out the game. I want to say obrigado, a sério, muito obrigado pela oportunidade. I did said thank you for the opportunity. O melhor dos sucessos com as vendas, com o jogo, e acima de tudo continuem a corrigir bugs e, se possível, corrijam a jogabilidade do Elk, porque tirando isso, o vosso jogo está muito bom, independente do que a IGN tenha dito ou não, ok? So guys, that's all. Hope you keep enjoying the rest of the gameplay, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.